love the Eagles as much as we do, then hit that subscribe button and stick with us at Eagles Nest News for all the drama, updates, and hype all season long. Hey, Eagles fans, welcome back. Today's episode is absolutely packed with updates and possibilities for the future of the team. So buckle up because we're diving deep into the free agent pool after the 2025 NFL draft to look at who's still out there and, more importantly, who could realistically end up in midnight green this season. If you were sitting in that general manager chair right now making the big calls, who would you bring in? That's the question I've been asking myself all week, especially considering the current depth and the recent moves the Eagles have and haven't made. Let's not forget the man running the show in Philly has been nothing short of masterful. 2 Super Bowl wins since 2017, each with a different coach and a different quarterback. That's no accident. He's a cap wizard, knows exactly how to manipulate the numbers, restructure contracts, and sniff out opportunities where other teams see problems. This guy doesn't just build rosters, he builds contenders, and now we get to play fantasy GM for a bit and think about what this team still needs before we kick off another season. First off, wide receiver. Yeah, I know. We've got AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, and that duo is elite. But if either of those guys misses time, that wide receiver room suddenly looks thin, like really thin. There's talent there, but not enough experience or proven production once you get past the top 2. Jahan Dotson is the projected WR3. And while he's flashed, he hasn't quite lived up to first-round expectations. The Eagles just picked up his 5th-year option, signaling they still believe in his upside. And they should. We saw what he can do late last season when he had to step up. But here's the thing. He can't be your go-to guy if AJ or Devonta goes down. That's asking too much too soon. And behind Dotson? Well, it's a mixed bag. Johnny Wilson is a massive target, tallest wide receiver in football, but he hasn't proven he can consistently catch the ball or make plays under pressure. That was obvious during his limited snaps last year. Then you've got Ania Smith, who brings some quickness and agility but lacks top-end speed and struggled to stand out in camp and preseason. He's made some strides, sure, but you don't want to be relying on him in key third-down situations. Terrace Marshall is another name in the mix. A second-round pick from that legendary 2019 LSU squad with Joe Burrow. He's bounced around a bit since then and hasn't quite found his footing. Now he's wearing number 46, not exactly a wideout's dream number, and trying to find a new home. The potential is there, but so are the red flags. The bottom line is this. If either of the top 2 receivers misses time, this group doesn't scare anyone. Adding another proven pass catcher makes too much sense. And that brings us to Amari Cooper. I know. He's not the same guy he was a few years ago, but he's still got something left. And as a WR4 or depth option, that's a massive upgrade over the names we just ran through. Last year, he didn't put up huge numbers, splitting time between Cleveland and Buffalo, but context matters. The Browns were a mess at quarterback, and then in Buffalo, he joined mid-season and had to adjust quickly. Even so, he pulled in 20 catches for just under 300 yards and nearly 15 yards per reception. Not bad, all things considered. Zooming out a bit, if you look at his last few seasons, Cooper has been remarkably consistent. In 2023, he had 72 receptions for over 1,200 yards and 5 touchdowns, all while playing with some very inconsistent quarterback play. Sure, the drops have crept up, and that's something to watch. But overall, he still creates separation. He still wins on intermediate routes, and he's still a tough cover. You're not signing him to be the star. You're signing him so that when the inevitable injuries happen, you've got a steady, experienced pro who can keep the chains moving. Now, if the Eagles are thinking about adding someone with a different skill set, maybe a more physical possession guy, someone who can work the middle and win contested catches. There are a few names that fit that mold too. Guys who aren't necessarily going to stretch the field, but can be a quarterback's best friend on 2nd and 7. Think about receivers who saw a ton of volume last year with shaky quarterback play, but still managed to make an impact one. In particular, was targeted over 120 times, hauled in 70 catches for over 700 yards, and found the end zone 7 times. Not elite numbers, but rock-solid production, especially when you consider the circumstances. What? stands out about that player is the drop-off in speed. He was never a burner, but also how reliable he used to be. Last year, he had 8 drops. That's uncharacteristic and maybe a red flag, but it's also correctable. And when you look at the total package, route running, physicality, catch radius, there's still plenty of value there. Again, he wouldn't be brought in to take over, just to support. This team needs insurance, not another home run swing. On the running back front, there's a lot to unpack. Right now, the Eagles have a top-tier starter, arguably the best in the league, and a young back who some people, myself included, think could be a breakout star. But beyond that, questions. One guy on the depth chart is coming off a serious neck injury and didn't play last year. He's got talent, no doubt, but trusting him to be available week in and week out feels risky. Then there's another back who runs hard, sees the field well, but has struggled with fumbles, pass protection, and catching the ball. All of those things are coachable, but they also limit your opportunities when you're fighting for a roster spot. The upside is there, but reliability isn't, at least not yet. And another option, who played in 13 games last year, looked solid but has a concerning injury history and wasn't retained. The team has clearly been aggressive about managing this position through the draft and free agency over the last few years. One name that intrigues me is a back who had 195 carries for just under 1,000 yards and averaged 4.6 yards per attempt. He also caught 32 passes for over 150 yards and scored 9 touchdowns. Solid numbers, but again, injury questions. And if we're being honest, this team has done a good job keeping its core guys healthy lately. Credit to the training staff. At one point last season, 21 of the 22 starters were healthy. That's wild. There's also Will Shipley, a guy I think has real potential as a number 2 back. Maybe not everyone agrees, but I love his versatility. He can block, he can catch, and he brings juice when he gets the ball in space. He's not quite ready to take over a full workload, but in a rotational role, absolutely. I'd love to see him get more chances. Maybe not as a wide receiver. Let's be honest, that's not the move. But as a true dual threat back who can help in a lot of different situations. Now, when it comes to safeties, there's a veteran out there who flat out wants to be an Eagle. He said it. This isn't some back channel rumor. He's made it clear. And honestly, it makes a ton of sense. The team added a rookie safety who started his college career as a nickel before emerging as one of the top safeties in the game. He's a little undersized, but the guy can fly and hits like a truck. He's got a shot at the starting job. But bringing in a seasoned vet to mentor him and add depth could be the move that takes this secondary from good to great. You've also got another undrafted safety from last year who's made a name for himself and caught the coaching staff's attention. Plus, a recent high draft pick is in the mix. But let's be real, experience matters. And the guy I'm talking about is a 4-time All-Pro second-teamer who was tied for the league lead in interceptions 2 years ago. He's played in over 13 games in 8 of his 9 seasons and consistently finds the ball. Last year wasn't his best. He said everything just felt new and off, but he still managed 4 pass breakups and ranked top 20 in key metrics. He's not the only option either. There's another safety still in the market with close ties to the coaching staff and a solid resume. In 16 games last year, he had 86 tackles, 4 pass deflections, 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble. Quarterbacks had a rating over 100 against him, which isn't great, but again, context matters. A change of scenery could do wonders. And we're not done. The cornerback room could use attention too, especially if injuries hit one. Intriguing free agent is the son of a former NFL star, and this kid can ball. He had back-to-back seasons with 11 pass breakups and multiple interceptions before injuries limited him last year. Still young, still smart, still instinctive. He's a guy who knows how to make plays when it matters, picking up right where we left off. Let's talk about that cornerback depth because, look, after the draft, it's clear the Eagles didn't prioritize bringing in another outside corner. That tells you a lot. It shows they either believe in the young talent they already have or that they're betting on free agency to plug the holes. One young guy in particular probably exhaled a huge sigh of relief when the draft ended without the team grabbing someone who could bump him off the roster. He's shown flashes, and if given the reps, he could absolutely develop into a solid contributor. Add in a few others who've made headlines more for their off-the-field personality than their on-field impact. One even went viral after posting a hilarious video from a local tourist spot. and you've got a cornerback room full of untapped potential. Now let's go back to that veteran corner, the one who's still out there. Son of a former NFL standout, he's built his own name over the years. Injuries limited him last season to just 4 games. But when you look at the first 3 years of his career, consistency. 11 pass breakups as a rookie, 11 again in year 2, and 13 in year 3. Plus 2 interceptions in each of those first 3 seasons. That's the kind of production you don't ignore. He's a smart, instinctive player, and when he's on the field, he just makes plays. He's not flashy, he's not the fastest, but he's reliable. And that matters, especially in a league where injuries pile up fast, and having dependable depth can make or break your season. You look at players with NFL bloodlines, and there's often something different about them. They grew up around the game, they understand the demands, and they carry themselves with a kind of football maturity that's hard to teach. That's what you get with this guy. And yet he's still unsigned. Honestly, that's kind of shocking. If the Eagles want a versatile corner who can play inside or outside and who knows what it means to contribute in a big moment, they should absolutely make the call. Now let's slide into linebacker territory. Philly made a big move in the first round, trading up to land a guy who's more of a hybrid, someone who can get after the quarterback but also drop into coverage when needed. The question now is, do they see him as a true linebacker or more of a stand-up pass rusher? That distinction matters because it influences how the rest of the depth chart shakes out. There's another linebacker already on the roster who's entering a contract year, and the team has reason to be cautious with him due to a major injury he's still working his way back from. That could open the door for a veteran to return, especially one with ties to a former defensive coordinator who was part of that Super Bowl run a few years back. That coordinator may have had his struggles adjusting mid-game, but the linebacker played his heart out under that system and thrived. The Eagles also added a new name at the position during the offseason, someone who's built more for special teams than 3-down duty. Still, you can't ignore the potential of a certain young player who impressed in limited snaps last year. He's got great instincts and wasn't afraid to step into high-pressure situations. One trusted assistant coach had enough confidence to throw him in during some key defensive stands last season, and that speaks volumes. Behind him, there's another linebacker who's more of a special teams ace. He's consistent, tough, and always around the football when it counts. So again, if someone goes down or needs to ease back in, having a familiar face return on a cheap 1-year deal makes all the sense in the world. And here's the part fans need to remember. Even if it seems like the roster is set coming out of the draft, teams are always tweaking. Training camp brings injuries, preseason brings surprises, veterans get cut, trades get made, and suddenly that guy you weren't even thinking about is starting in week 1. That's why it's worth keeping tabs on all these available free agents. The market right now is full of players who could help the Eagles without breaking the bank. Take the safety spot again. The veteran I mentioned earlier isn't the only one still looking for a home. There's another former high draft pick, also connected to the coaching staff, who quietly put together a solid campaign last season. He played all 16 games, made 86 tackles, defended 4 passes, forced a fumble, and picked off 3 balls. Sure, quarterbacks had a good passer rating when targeting him, but the defense around him wasn't exactly dominant. Put him in a system with more structure and better pass rush support, and you might unlock something special. Remember, 2 years ago, this guy had 5 tackles for loss, 8 pass deflections, and 4 interceptions. He was flying around the field. He's not a splashy name, but he's experienced, durable, and productive. If you can land him on a short-term, low-cost deal, that's a win. Especially when you're not expecting him to carry the whole secondary, just to hold down the fort or help groom the next generation. And that's kind of the theme here. It's not about making blockbuster signings at this point. It's about rounding out the roster with smart, calculated moves. You want reliable vets who've seen everything the NFL can throw at them. Guys who can fill in without being liabilities. Guys who won't shrink under the lights if they have to step into a starting role on a random Sunday in December. And who knows? Maybe one of these signings turns into something bigger. Maybe that extra depth at wide receiver gives your quarterback a go-to option when the defense is doubling your stars. Maybe that insurance policy of safety ends up leading your team in interceptions. Stranger things have happened. That's why GMs keep working the phones long after the draft is over. Also, let's not forget the value of veteran leadership. That's something no stat can measure. When things get tough in the fourth quarter or the team's coming off a 2-game skid, it's those seasoned voices in the locker room that can make the difference. The right vet in the right situation can reset the tone for an entire position, a group. And if the guy has playoff experience, even better. That's gold. One more thing before we wrap this up. Sometimes these late off-season additions turn into fan favorites. Think about past years when players signed in June or July and ended up making huge plays when it mattered. Every year it happens. Somebody comes in under the radar, earns a spot in camp, and suddenly becomes a key part of the rotation. That's what makes this stretch of the offseason so interesting. The roster's not finalized, not even close. There's room for surprises. And we should expect a few. So here's the real question. Who's the best fit still out there? Is it a veteran wideout like Cooper? A physical receiver with something to prove? A depth piece at running back? Or maybe one of those experienced safeties who could mentor the new guys while still making plays of their own? Philly's front office has earned the benefit of the doubt. They've built winners, adapted on the fly, and found value where other teams didn't look twice. There's every reason to believe they'll make another savvy move or two before the season kicks off. All right. I want to hear from you. Hit the comments and let me know who you think the Eagles should target. Which remaining free agent is the best fit for this team? Don't hold back. This is the time for bold takes and smart football talk. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. You've also got another undrafted safety from last year who's made a name for himself and caught the coaching staff's attention. Plus, a recent high draft pick is in the mix. But let's be real, experience matters. And the guy I'm talking about is a 4-time All-Pro second-teamer who was tied for the league lead in interceptions 2 years ago. He's played in over 13 games in 8 of his 9 seasons and consistently finds the ball. Last year wasn't his best. He said everything just felt new and off, but he still managed 4 pass breakups and ranked top 20 in key metrics. He's not the only option either. There's another safety still on the market with close ties to the coaching staff and his solid resume. In 16 games last year, he had 86 tackles, 4 pass deflections, 3 in a surprising and controversial statement that is already sending shockwaves through the Philadelphia sports community. Jihaad Campbell, the promising young linebacker, admitted that he regrets joining the Philadelphia Eagles. Campbell, who was recently selected by the team in the 2025 NFL Draft, spoke candidly during an interview, revealing emotions that few rookies are willing to share so early in their professional careers. Campbell, a standout at Alabama known for his explosiveness and versatility on the field, was expected to be a major piece in the Eagles' defensive rebuild. The front office and coaching staff had high hopes for the young linebacker, viewing him as a long-term solution in the middle of the field. But despite the enthusiasm surrounding his arrival, it seems the transition to Philadelphia hasn't gone as smoothly as anticipated. "I just don't feel like myself here," Campbell said during the interview. "Maybe I made a mistake. I thought this was the right place, but now I'm not sure." His comments raise immediate concerns about locker room morale and team chemistry, especially with OTA sessions just beginning and expectations high for the 2025 season. While he didn't go into detail about the reasons behind his regret, sources close to the player suggest that the pressure of the Philadelphia market, combined with a sense of disconnection from the coaching staff, may be at the root of his discontent. The Eagles organization has not yet issued an official response, but internal discussions are reportedly underway. Some fans are expressing disappointment and confusion, questioning whether the team fully understood Campbell's mindset and personality during the draft process. Others have shown support, urging the young linebacker to stay focused and give himself time to adapt. Campbell's talent is undeniable, and it's still early enough for things to turn around. However, this unexpected admission could mark a difficult chapter for both the player and the franchise. Whether this becomes a temporary bump or the beginning of a larger issue remains to be seen. One thing is clear, all eyes in Philadelphia are now on Jihaad Campbell. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.